Sanjam Chawla. I'm the tour manager for the Golden Chariot. This is not a tour. This is not a tour package that you're running. This is not an operation that you're running. This is not a hotel. This is just everything. There are 2 restaurants. There's a bar coach, a business center. We have a gym so that travelers do not feel guilty eating. And we have a spa for men and women. Hi, good evening, ma'am. How are you? Did you have a good day? Storage has to be very precise. They do arrive with too much luggage and there's a space constraint, and then they look at us with, these are small. So I said, what did you expect on the train? But we do work around it again. We try and, if we have an extra cabin, we give them an extra cabin, or we accommodate their luggage somewhere or the other. We don't leave them stranded.
Executive chef of the luxury train Golden Chariot. Today I am going to show you the South Indian pancake.
We move in the morning because we do want our travelers to see the countryside, because we pass through some beautiful landscapes, wherein at the other times like Hassan or maybe Hampi, we do try and spend the whole day stationary at the stations, doing all the excursion. Then the train moves during the night. The travelers, they get used to it. The first night is a little movement oriented, and they're a bit displaced because people generally go from the platform to their homes. Here people come back to a platform to sleep, so it's a bit odd for them. But eventually they get used to it. When they're coming back to the station, they feel okay, they're going back home. Today's ride from Hassan to Hospet is a ride which is an overnight. We sort of leave from Hassan at 8:40 in the evening. A track from Bangalore to Mysore is really, it is really scratchy, so when we're moving, the wheels seem to be sort of, suddenly, they just seem to be displacing, they're not. You're coming back to Bangalore. Lovely. And then what's your program from Bangalore? We have to have everything limited, but yet in abundance. We do have our particular stops like Mysore, where you get fresh vegetables, everything fresh that you can pick up, but then you don't end up getting while the train is moving. So yeah, it's unlike a hotel wherein you can just send somebody to the marketplace.
Very small kitchen, you have to produce everything very fresh, and you have to keep guests happy.
We have had people go on excursions outside and them coming late, and you can't do anything, because a traveler or a client is never wrong. Even if there's another train that has to come, what the railways does is that they move us into a different platform, or they move us into a pit area, where the water filling and the gas checking and all the maintenance happen, that they move us there. A staff coach, we have a separate staff canteen, so we carry those many staff which are needed. I just love to meet people. I love to arrange everything. I love to be busy. I love to explore. I enjoy it all. I just enjoy it all. Yes, sometimes it does get, it does get hectic days. There are trips which are just too much because you have too much pressure, but that keeps coming and going. But overall, it's a lot of fun.
An odyssey into India's past. Now a journey to the legendary Galapagos Islands, one of the top adventure destinations in the world, where wildlife lovers spend over $100 million a year. But the pressures of tourism have taken their toll, and now new regulations are being introduced to reduce human impact, as John McIntyre reports.
These are the legendary Galapagos Islands, arguably one of the most remarkable ecosystems anywhere on the planet, above and below the water. prehistoric-looking marine iguanas, sea lions, and of course the legendary giant tortoise. These are among the iconic attractions made famous by the 19th century Victorian explorer Charles Darwin. His legacy is a protected national park with World Heritage status, which attracts ever-increasing numbers of tourists. From a few thousand in the 1960s to more than 170,000 who now pile onto boats heading out to the major islands every year. Concern about the integrity of habitats has led to new regulations. These include 15-day intervals between individual sites for land tours in protected zones. This is against a backdrop of conservation programs aimed at eradicating introduced or invasive species to ensure the long-term survival of native wildlife. None more famous perhaps than the 18,000 or so giant tortoises, which can live for more than 150 years. They remain an endangered species. But this new crackdown by the national park should in theory mean that encounters with man are far more sporadic. And that's good news, because this is all part of the plan to try to balance the demands of tourism and conservation. The Galapagos is also one of the premier diving destinations, especially around the world-famous islands of Darwin and Wolf. Volcanic topography combined with powerful nutrient-rich currents create the perfect environment for a unique marine ecosystem. Walls of schooling hammerhead sharks are a major attraction. And despite the constant battles to stop illegal fishing, populations at these particular sites remain healthy. Scuba diving boat operators have, however, been hit hardest by the new laws. Shore visits to most protected areas are now banned.
You realize that the regulations are absolutely necessary. They are something that after our first negative reaction to them, we then welcome with open arms, because without those regulations, the Galapagos will not be sustainable, and they certainly will not be here for the next generation and generations to come.
Edwin Naula is the Galapagos National Park Director. He's confident they've got the balance right with the new rules for tourists. He's more worried about the serious environmental impact of too many local people, mostly Ecuadorians, now moving to the islands for work.
In every protected zone, there are some problems. The main thing is to be prepared to tackle the problems. But these are mainly coming from outside the zones, where the local people live. So we have to manage better the population with adequate politics for both populated and protected zones.
Whether above or below the water, it's clear there's much to celebrate here in the Galapagos. But it's possible that new and even tougher regulations may be needed to preserve the environmental integrity of these magical islands.
John McIntyre reporting from the Galapagos Islands. And that's it for this week, I'm afraid. Do try and join us again next week, when we'll be looking at the growing opposition in the US to the enhanced pat-down at airport security. Is it a step too far? And of course, you can keep up to date with all the latest on our website, bbc.com/fasttrack, and on Facebook. And for even more travel inspiration, go to bbctravel.com, where you'll find a special report on future World Cup host Qatar. But until then, from me, Fiona Foster, and the rest of the team, goodbye and happy travelling.